So it's been crazy weather in these areas. Don't know why, but I just want to check something as well over here. I need to see if the audio is good or no. Just to make sure actually I do have audio. Just to make sure. Yeah, I do have audio. I was trying to fill up my 99 tax in EU 1099 in USA, but I guess I forgot my 5-digit password, so I'm gonna have to find a way to do it. Again, that's stupid. Weather is a bit it's a bit funny. It's being like tornado warnings and stuff like that. The temperature is way too cold comparing so what it should be. Right now it's 49 degrees.
Speed limit reduced ahead. Speed limit reduced ahead. Right curve ahead.
Lumber loads. These guys still taking the lumber loads. Lumber loads, they pay like shit. So I can say actually I still did good this month. I took like, well, I was like just over a week off.
Drive northwest.
Turn left onto Sami's Drive Northwest.
So the GPS wants me to turn right, but I'm gonna turn left because the highway is right here behind me. I deliver over here on this warehouse, factory over here. Couple times. So I did delivery in Calgary, plasma cutter.
Onto Box Springs Road Northwest.
It was a loose end load, and I delivered something else as well. 2 boxes, it was 2 loads. 2 pretty good ones. And very light. My 2 loads, believe me or not, guys,
Box Springs Road Northwest. Then turn left onto Box Springs Boulevard Northwest.
was only 2,500 pounds. 2,500 pounds from Pennsylvania all the way to Calgary. And then, of course, I cannot put anything else on the trailer. Well, I was not supposed to put anything. Come on.
In 150 meters, use any lane to take the ramp to Trans-Canada Highway, Alberta 1 East. Use any lane to take the ramp to Trans-Canada Highway.
Something did change, and actually for the good, because the fuel in Canada,
Continue on Alberta 1 East.
I was not fueling Canada because the fuel in Canada, of course, is super expensive compared to USA. But for some reason, Pilot Flying J now, it's only a Pilot Flying J. Well, another gas stations as well. So I'm getting over sometimes 40 cents discounts. per liter. So you see over there, I don't know if you guys can see, it's over $2, like it's $2 a gallon. Sorry, $2 a liter. But for me, it's $1.50, $58, $1.60. That's Canadian dollar, right? So automatically, when I put fuel, let's say, because I use a EFS, it shows me the price in Canadian and the price in Canadian and the price in US dollars.
Traffic is getting worse. You're still on the fastest route. You will now arrive
Speed
at
limit reduced ahead.
So it's pretty good. Hey, I was there not too long ago, Martin. Yuma. I did some couple deliveries actually I did one delivery over there. I did one delivery over there in Yuma, right next to Love's. So you are from Yuma, you know what I'm talking about. It's a Love's Travel Center in Yuma. I delivered right next door. Speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour. You don't want to speed up. This area over here I don't really like, especially if you are super heavy because of the traffic lights and there's a lot of up and down. Like the worst part was actually behind me. This calls Medicine Hat, Alberta. So I am 2 hours behind the normal time. The good thing is I have only at this moment 1 hour and 55 minutes before midnight, and it's only 21:48, but over here. But on my e-log it's 2 hours, so technically it's 11:48. So I'm gonna gain the rest of Canadian hours. So I'm gonna have my full 13 hours in Canada. See, this is going uphill, right? So if you are loaded over here, it's not. I'm not loaded. That guy is loaded, so it's gonna take a while to that guy to start moving after his traffic lights turns green. Reitnouver trailer. Yeah, they are good trailers. Hey, look, Andy, from Iowa. The weather is not being good, huh? Currents. It's funny, at 4 o'clock in the morning I crossed the way station. Well, it was not 4 o'clock, it was more like 5. And the scale actually was open for boats only, for watercrafts. I was surprised, like, why they are open for watercrafts and not for the trucks, right? Well, I guess it was nice. So I'm gonna have to change my pre-pass. I have was Driveways, but now they changed the company name. Now it's Fleet Worth, but it's worth like shit now because I never get a bypass. Before I was getting a bypass all the time. Basically, I get sometimes, you know, but I know that's about the safety, right? That's the company safety, but also how come sadly I don't get any bypass. Only I get bypass only when the way stations are close. And my CSA score actually is below 0. From Iowa. So 9 minutes to my clock gives me the rest of the hours. I forgot actually because I was needed only 8 hours, but the thing was yesterday when I arrived in Canada, I stopped. So I drove only 11 hours and a half yesterday. I should drive all the hours I have, but it was so windy, like the wind was so strong, I was like, no, I'm not going to drive like that because it's just killing the fuel economy like crazy because it was very bad wind. So I stopped where I wanted to stop, and I drove during the night. It was not so bad, but was still windy, but it was better. And but once I get more to Calgary, it was way better. And then I unloaded everything, and now the wind's going west, right, east. So and I'm empty. That's one thing over here. To get some loads sometimes from Alberta is a bit very nice. I get some loads, but man, so cheap. Like I'm like, fuck that. Like it's because like I'm looking for loads like to Pennsylvania or something like that from here because I got a load going to Louisiana, and from Louisiana, Alabama, pick up in Alabama, and going back to Quebec. No, actually I'm going to New Brunswick, so to end my month. I just worked 3 weeks this month, basically. I don't need to work more, to be honest. So I'm gonna take another week. I have some stuff to do it, so I'm gonna take another week. Then I'm gonna start like on a 6, on a 7 or something like that. It's still medicine hot, guys. So I was having a friend of mine who was telling me about this. The fuel is better now in Canada because of I don't even pay attention for the fuel prices in Canada with my discount because I know it was always fucked up. But now actually it's good. So it's good. For me, I'm going to Pennsylvania, right? So it's close to the I-81. So for me now, it's well worth it for me to go pick up my load and drive through Ontario and then cross Buffalo Bridge because that bridge actually going to USA is free. We don't pay actually. The B-tools on I-90, and I'm gonna take the 380, and that's it. It's a bit fucked up, but it's 90 miles more. But the tools, if I cross Pembina, North Dakota. Now, if I go from the 75 and take the 29, Interstate 29 south to North Dakota, and then 94 all the way from Chicago and all of that bullshit, it's gonna cost me. I pay the ones I can pay cash. I pay that much cash, Indiana,
Way
Illinois.
station ahead.
Illinois, I cannot pay any cash. Indiana going east was able to do. No, going west was able. I don't know about going east. But there's another. The price is going to be the same. Just in Ohio,
Right curve
in
ahead.
Indiana, the tools was $170. That's not even include Illinois and part of Indiana. That was not possible to pay cash, and Pennsylvania. So I'm gonna have a bill of basically $250, if not more. And the fuel now in Canada,
Left
with
curve
my
ahead.
discount at the pilot franchise, is gonna be about 4 gallons 70, $4.60. 70, 75, 60, stuff like that. So it's well worth it going to take the trip from. Oh, and then I have my cab because Canada on the 7th day starts gives you the hours you drove it on the 7th day, like the weekend, basically, right? I did not drove too
Speed
much
limit reduced ahead.
because actually. I drove 8 hours on Sunday. I think so. That's what I'm going to gain. But by the hours I have right now, plus the hour I'm going to gain on Saturday, if I drive in Canada, not USA, I'm going to have 8 hours more. So I'm going to have a full day today, tomorrow, and of course I have like 11 hours and a half. No, 11 hours drive. No, yeah. Almost 11 hours each day in the USA. Hey, John. Welcome to Alberta, guys. So the rain is going west. Just a couple of minutes, like half an hour, not a half an hour, like let's say half an hour ago was a big cloud with heavy wind and rain. I'm sure I'm gonna get rain and wind. But I usually do the west. I wasn't prepared, but I felt everything. Let me shut off this thing. This thing don't work properly. Imagine in Canada it's not giving the fleet wording or something like that. I don't remember. They changed the name. Stupid name. I'm gonna sign up for a pre-pass. I was thinking sign up for the best pass with a pre-pass, but because they steal money from me, these motherfuckers. Like I was driving in on a west coast for like almost 2 months, and now New York, Pennsylvania, and stuff like that. I call them. I have proof on my log, but they just don't give a shit. I did a dispute on my credit cards. I got some charge back from my credit cards, but not everything. So I just. Hello.
Left curve ahead.
Way station is closed. The way stations are on that side, but there's a manifold open. I have to go because there's an intersection. So this station. I'm driving at night because I pick up my load. Was funny because I pick up these loads like on Monday. The first one was like 9:30, something like 9:30. when I slept at the customer, it was not a big driveway, but it was okay. And the girl from there, he was offering me a load going to the West Coast in USA. I told her, unfortunately, I can't. I love to, but I can't. It was a machine, it was like a 20-foot machine. And then she was like, no, how much do you want? I will pay, but like, you are here already. But I just can't because I'm from Canada. I cannot take a load from USA to USA. I wish I can. It would be nice taking that load, that machine, and the toolbox. But things sometimes don't work the way we want. I have the load board. I'm checking the loads all the time in USA and stuff like that. And I see some guys crying, they don't have money, or yeah, I know the rates should be a bit better, but you can fucking make money in USA. I don't know how many people, truck drivers in USA are so screwed up. I don't know. Honestly, I am speechless. Okay, I gained my hours. Now I have 12 hours and 40 minutes to drive. I totally forgot about this. I was 2 hours behind. So I could easily start 2 hours before. So I start at 9:30, I can start at 7:30. If I did start at 7:30, it would be better because I was needed to get there on time.
Right curve ahead.
That's okay. So if I really get, okay, well, I can check that now because it's after midnight. I can check when I stop. How many hours? So right now I have 17 hours and 9 minutes on my cycle, but I did gain this, I think it was 8 hours tomorrow. Because technically it's Friday, right? For me it's Thursday, but technically it's Friday because on the East Coast it's already 11 midnight and 4 minutes. Guys, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Hit that like and subscribe. Last night I started driving was 11:30 at night, but it was 11:30 mountain time. You see, like, I normally don't drive 13 hours a day, but like now in Canada, like this today, I'm in Canada, and tomorrow I will be in Canada, so that 13 hours is really, really worth it. Like sometimes 2 hours you need to get somewhere. Like me, I always needed to get where I needed to park, so I crossed the border with 1 minute left to drive in USA, and then it switched to Canada. So and then I gained 2 hours, right? So that that helped me a lot. Get me where I need to go, where I want to go. Sometimes that extra 2 hours is not about I want to drive 13 hours a day, but sometimes it's nice to have the extra time.
Right curve ahead.
So like now I have 12 hours and 37 minutes, right? So I will get to the pickup, I delivery, and I keep going. this case, I will stop in Thunder Bay. Tomorrow I will stop in Thunder Bay. Today I will stop I still stop in Winnipeg. Then I will stop in if I gain that extra 8 hours. Sometimes you gain, sometimes you not. Also I will gain, so tomorrow I will drive on a weekend. It's better, like less traffic, less idiots on the road. I'm not worried about the way stations. Way stations I don't care. I don't know why people are so scared of way stations. You run legal, you keep your truck in order, you have not to be worried. Yeah, sometimes when something happen, because you don't know, right? I know that, but it's all about. But I see people passing the way, like bypassing way station for no reason. And then of course they go after them. I slept good today. I stopped, I didn't eat, I didn't take a shower and everything, so then I just crashed because I was tired. Like yesterday I stopped, I did go to a KFC, but it's a buffet KFC. It was very good actually. It's all you can eat KFC for 15 bucks. Like the tax of the coke was 17 cents. I stopped over there. It was nice. But it was 7:30 p.m. I was still up, and then I wake up at 11. Start driving at 11:30. Do inspection and stuff like that, and then start driving. And I drove all the way to, was like on the southeast side of Calgary. I delivered this load. The guy was so surprised I was there today. Like, holy shit! I thought he was just going to come tomorrow. I was like, yeah, me too. But I'm here today. It's better. They unload the machine with the crane. It's a plasma cutter machine, so it cuts the steel. The pipes, like the steels we have, the steel bundles. Sometimes we have, so that's how they cut the steel. Is with plasma cutters. It's nice. It's a nice machine.
Right curve ahead.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. You guys stay safe out there as well. drive better that day. But, you know, sometimes things don't go the way you want, but that's okay. Ay, ay. So I have one of the cameras. I have two cameras on the road. One is recording 24/7. The other one is on sensing mode. So something happens, it starts recording that button, blocks like a couple of seconds before as well. But I think it's up to a minute on that one. I'm gonna have to find a way to unlock to figure out my passwords for my IRS. This week, right now, something. There he goes, another 567, no, actually 598 US dollars for a highway tax. I don't know why we pay highway tax and then we have to pay tolls as well, so I don't know why, like, you know, that's just a money maker, you know, a money grab, let's say this way. Today, actually, shit, I started last Sunday. Well, technically, I did start to work Friday, actually.
Left curve ahead.
Friday was 1 week. Friday to Friday, and then so I'm not been working for so long this month. trip I did it over here was the load was so light. I was always basically, except when I got the wind in North Dakota, after I left the I-94 to the 52. That's when the wind starts, like basically half an hour after I left the I-94. Yeah. And other than that, it was very well. I was doing over 10 miles a gallon, 10, 11 miles per gallon. People talk shit about the car engine, but they are very good. Well, yeah, I did have some problems in the beginning, like the injectors. They changed the injectors, but after that, it's a truck like normal. No problems.
State border ahead.
We are 5 miles away from Saskatchewan, Canada. It's 53 degrees. The good thing being more on these areas is like it's not too hot. Like actually because of the rain and the storms, the temperature did go down. It's been like actually 50 degrees, no more than that, even 49 degrees, 45 degrees. But the good thing is I don't need a AP, nothing to sleep, just, you know. More like to Texas, south, like where I was in Pennsylvania, it was fucking hot. The 2 first days, I did have to turn on the APU, but then, nope. The APU stays shut. Sorry guys, bless me. Shit. Sorry guys.
Left curve ahead.
What the heck? Excuse me. Almost. Kilometers, basically is 103-4 miles from Swift Current. I was thinking to go all the way to Swift Current. Like I did have this 2 hours. I was like, shit, I will stop at the pilot, take a nice shower. For the rest area, 0.6 miles. are in Saskatchewan. It's a different province now. It's like the States. Surprised the Google Maps don't say anything. I guess Google Maps don't mind Saskatchewan. I have the Google Maps for the for the traffic and stuff like that. I don't know why he's saying traffic is getting worse before I start. So I'm going to drive to the pickup. From the pickup, actually, I need to do a different thing because actually this is not giving me the direction to the customer. Yeah. Now it's here. Okay.
Continue on Saskatchewan 1 East for 393 kilometers.
How are you, my brother? Yeah, long time, huh? So what's up, brother? Nice. That's cool. I'm heading back to the East Coast. So I'm getting a load to Pennsylvania. I need to get a load from Pennsylvania to Quebec or something like that. Sorry. Yeah. I'm gonna have another strange load from Quebec going to Louisiana, but I have a stop in Virginia and Mississippi and Louisiana. That's a bit awkward load. It's like the one I did it to California with a bunch of stops. Tried to get the boat from Calgary to Winnipeg. It was nothing. Well, I can get one like salt and stuff like that, but I was like, and if paperwork goes wrong, it was land of boats. That's not actually was from this guy from Landstar. I got a load last time with him as well. I got some loads from Landstar. That load from the airport was from Landstar. In fact, now I remember something.
Right curve ahead.
seatbelt lights. Oh yeah, the load I'm picking up is only 20 foot long, and it's only 32,000 pounds. And the load from Chicago airport, it's Winnipeg. They have another one. Shit, I'm gonna check the load board tomorrow. I'm gonna call her, see if she still has that one. If she has, I will take that one from O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. Have some problems with that. Well, it was not that load, it was stupid FedEx.
Left curve ahead.
Dark. Well, it's not 100%, but like 95%, 97%, something like that. Fucking idiot next to me with the fucking high beams on. And it's not passing, it's just like. Left lane. Four-wheelers at the best. Sometimes I feel like the four-wheelers do that intentional, right? Like it's on the left lane, behind me, with the high beams on, and it's not even passing, like, you know? Oh, finally decides to speed up. Stupid fuck, must be on the fucking phone. Yeah, now slams on the brakes. I am wondering who the fuck passed someone and slams on the brakes, like starts braking, you know? That two tracks, well, the blue one, that's the one I was negotiating with the guys, but all depends because at this moment it's about my trailer as well. I have a Conestoga trailer, I want to sell it, but the guys, they give me a ridiculous price, low price for the trailer, and that I will not accept it. And everything, and I told him that's the price I want for my trailer, but for now I did not heard from him. I saw a truck What's the private seller? This guy has the truck. The price is actually good, and I like that truck. That's the kind of truck I like. Don't get me wrong. I love this Kenworth T68. The fuel economy is just beautiful. It's just these fenders. It's too much plastic. I don't know why Kenworth did that shit. They need to change this thing. Or do a better job on putting these things together and the things that just noisy. They have to fix it all the time. So like last time I bolted that things like screw the bolts, like put the bolts very tight and nuts and stuff like that. Very tight. It's already loose. Some of them is already a bit loose, like.
Left curve ahead.
Normally I've been driving at daytime, right? It's only like yesterday I did start at 11:30 mountain time, like 12:30 Eastern time. Today I'm starting way earlier than that because I'm following my, let's say, my 11 hours and 10 hours sleeping, right? So except yesterday in Canada I took only 8 hours because in Canada, let's say once you get to Canada, the first day you don't need to take 10 hours, you just need to take 8. So I did take 8, I gained my 13 hours, I keep going, and now I took my 10.
Curve ahead.
Because I was in it. Yesterday I did not sleep good. Today, actually I slept very good. I was tired today. I was like in my head, I was like, I have to make it to a medicine hat after I pick up my loads. I was thinking to drive all the way over here to Swift Current. I should do that actually. Now I'm thinking maybe I should do that. But because I need to pick up the loads, normally it's like you get there, you get like people are in line. Doesn't matter if you arrive at, like if you have an appointment over there at 7, doesn't matter. They just have that, just to make sure they have how many trucks they have. I'm gonna get there about 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's more than enough. I already prepared some paperwork because I'm a bit confused because I don't know which one I'm gonna cross. I don't know if I go by Pembina or let's see, it's called Pembina. I don't need shit. It's just not. Let's go back. I don't know if I cross Pembina, North Dakota, or if I go all the way. I'm not decided yet. All depends if I'm gonna gain the hours in Canada or no, because Canada will gain the hour. I will not gain in USA, but at least I will be able to drive on the weekends to get me out of the traffic. And the major city is gonna be for me for the drive to be Toronto if I go by Canada. I really don't like to drive on from Winnipeg to the east coast, going to Toronto or Montreal, going all the ways. It's 2 days drive, right? So and that the highways over there, like once you get to like from Winnipeg, you go east, you like 70 miles, I believe so. You will be in Ontario. Then is Highway 101. Go all the way to Thunder Bay, and then from Thunder Bay you go you still go east, and then you have 2 highways, 11 and 17. They are just those highways because of the way that people drive. You see, I'm not about racism, but these Indian people, they just don't care. They just pass you on a pure double solid lines and stuff like that. They just don't give a damn. Well, I don't pay attention for that things, truly, honestly. Some stuff is just stuff to ignore in live, like the news and stuff like that.
Left curve ahead.
This new bridge crossing from Ontario to Detroit, that's a good bridge for business actually, to take traffic away and stuff like that. But because the owner of the Ambassador Bridge is a friend of Donald Trump, fucking Donald Trump is just being bullshitting. Fucking Canada pays for the bridge in full. $6.4 billion Canada paid for that bridge. USA did not pay one fucking penny. And Canada used US workers and Canadian workers, US steel, Canadian steel. Canada did pay fair, and now what Canada is doing is, first, Canada gonna get the money. Like what Canada did, the deal was all the tools goes for Canada only until they pay the bridge. The bridge is paid. After that, it's 50% to Michigan and 50% to Canada. And guess what? It's going to employ a lot of Michigan people from Michigan, right? So I don't know why Donald Trump is doing that. He's always saying, I love Canada. Oh yeah, right. did support Trump, but unfortunately I make a big mistake. Just trying to screw Canada all over. And the worst part is to come after July 1st.
Right curve ahead.
660 miles still to go. Fuck. This part of the highway over here. This highway was very bad. Yeah, on the intersections over here, in some of them you have to slow down to 90, 80, depends. So over here is 90, but in some intersections 80. After that you can speed up again. That's ridiculous because like we are on a highway, so the ones who come to the highway, the other ones have to pay attention. Not the ones on the highway. The West 52, I do believe they are doing a four-lane highway. It's a nice highway over there, but this construction yesterday took time. but like just before 4 a.m. it's already, you can start seeing the skies getting way clear. Winnipeg, Manitoba. Oh my God, I said Winnipeg, Manitoba. $58. Oh wow, it's hot, it's warmer down there than here. Wow, I can't believe it. Yeah, she's way warmer than that. Yeah, I guess that storm and stuff like that, it was... Wow, surprise, huh? 8 a.m. There's no rain or nothing. It's going to be 56 degrees, 60 degrees. One, 62. Yeah. So I guess the weather that is nice. But it was just double checking really quick if I'm gonna gain hours or no. The seventh day will be Saturday, so okay. Happy birthday for your dad, my friends, for Nick. Happy birthday, Nick. Hope you get a lot of presents. What's up, boy? What's
Left
up?
curve ahead.
Come here. What? Huskies, Siberian Huskies, they are very smart dogs. But they are like cats, you know, they ignore you. It's like, how I say this? It's like you are the one living with them, not them with you. They are beautiful dogs, but sometimes they are very annoying. Okay. Right. Yeah. And she's obeys you for the first time, like if when she wants food or she wants something, she does this right away what you want, right away like that. Like I'm gonna tell her to put the paw on my. See, I don't even like. I just say that's simple. My paw on my leg. Patience. Fight for me, and then I give you a piece, okay? economic cars. Honda. I did own a Honda. I did own one Honda in Canada, two Acras. One was Acura Integra and one is Acura RLX. The RLX was a beautiful car. 2016 or something like that. I don't remember. tires. They are already over a year old. Hours to go. Always try to think positive all the time. Atlanta. How are you? How's Atlanta? easy like always, huh? Yeah, you need to work. No work, no fun, right? You need to work. Guys, hit that like and subscribe, and enjoy the rides. Coyote. Well, it looks like a coyote.
Left curve ahead.
eating after a snack and go back to sleep. four-wheelers should be at home, not driving. Trucks okay, but not four-wheelers. Should be a curfew, like four-wheelers not allowed to drive at night. the way station after we get to Swift Current. I'm going to end this live. About 15 minutes.
Right curve ahead.
$552 miles. Canada, they do that a lot, like the way stations on the middle, like especially on the west coast. They put one-way station, but for both ways. Actually, to be honest, it's smart.
Curve ahead.
Swift current, number 137. I don't know why, I guess it's the number of maybe kilometers.
Right curve ahead.
Come on.
Left curve ahead.
Welcome to Swift Current.
Speed limit reduced ahead.
this job.
Slow down. Speed limit exceeded.
How is not? I don't know where you got that. Wow, nice and smooth over here. Friends, we are just passing Swift Current in Saskatchewan. I'm going to end this live. And that's it for now. I will create one later. Okay, guys? So please be safe out there. Hit the like and the subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Okay, guys? Please. So thank you for coming and see you
Winding.
later. Saskatchewan, the highways are very similar. They are 60, I guess. Just a couple of minutes more before I end.
Right curve ahead.
Well, I guess it's not going to rain. Yeah, all the rain did go away already. I was checking the weather down in Winnipeg. It's good. Actually, it's going to be warmer. I don't mind the 60s. 16 degrees, I don't mind. It's not cold, it's not hot. It's nice. Nice to drive, nice to sleep without having to eat air conditioning. It's good. Saskatchewan, the internet always sucks.
Left curve ahead.
Exército, Montreal.
Right curve ahead. Commercial license
so everything is being like normal, like the guy was a real pilot, but actually he's not. Let's hear some podcasts.
Today we have two stories about individuals who go above and beyond to try to make sure investigators have everything they need to solve a case. However, in both instances, as you'll see, the cases take a wild, unexpected turn as a result of what these individuals provide that does solve the case, but in just an extremely unexpected way. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload 2, 3, even 4 times every week. So, if that's of interest to you, please replace all the water in the like button's ice tray with white vinegar. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories. On the morning of October 20th, 1997, a 40-year-old man named Kevin Dowling rowed a small boat across a reservoir that was near his home in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. And this reservoir was beautiful. It was quiet and peaceful out here, and the weather was perfectly cool, and the leaves on all the trees around the water were very colorful and starting to fall. And as Kevin looked around at all this incredible scenery, he knew he had chosen the exact right spot for what he needed to do. So Kevin had rented this boat to go fishing. But in reality, he was out here primarily just to have a place where he could relax and just think. So lately, Kevin's life had been incredibly stressful, and so moments of calm and peace were just very few and far between. The stress really began when recently Kevin had lost his full-time job. He had been an operations manager at a convenience store, and he had been fired after making just one mistake. And now he had to work the night shift at a Staples store just to support his family. And they were barely getting by. And Kevin, believe it or not, was generally speaking a very overachieving person. And so to have his life playing out the way it was, just very disappointing. And it was also just turning him into a very stressed out, angry person. And he knew that was happening. He'd been lashing out at his wife, yelling at his kids, and he'd even gotten into this horrible altercation with an art gallery owner in town. And so finally, after a couple of months of just being this sort of awful person with these angry outbursts and sleepless nights as a result of all this stress, he knew he had to do something to turn things around. And so he thought this fishing trip was just what he needed. Kevin looked towards the front of the boat where there was a camera set up on a tripod. Anytime Kevin went out on these fishing expeditions, he would film himself, both to capture the moments he would catch the fish, and also because he just liked, after he'd returned from these trips, to just watch the footage all over again, and sort of brought him back to a time and place, out on the water, that was just great. He liked fishing, it was peaceful, it was calm, and so he was doing that for this trip as well. Even though, right now, as he sat there, as serene as things were, he was filled with a whole lot of angst and a lot of stress and anxiety, but he figured, you know what, I'm out here, I need to put on a good performance for the camera, be the happiest version of myself I can be, so that when I return to dry land and I show this footage to my family and I refer to it myself, I don't want to see that I was so, upset while I was out here. This is supposed to be my catharsis. This is supposed to be a chance for me to decompress. So basically, he looked at the camera and sort of told himself, okay, smile and enjoy this trip. This is good for your mental health. And so Kevin rowed a bit further into the reservoir, and he came to a spot that he thought was good. He pulled in the oars, and then he reached over and turned on the camera and sort of waved and said, okay, I'm out here, about to start. And then he took a deep breath and he cast his line into the water. Early the next morning, Kevin was at his kitchen table feeling extremely tired. So the day before, after he had gone fishing on the reservoir, he had a night shift at Staples. So he did the whole shift, he comes home, he barely sleeps, and now he's back up again. And so he's just totally exhausted, eating breakfast with his wife. And so while the two of them are just sitting there in silence, eating their food, there's this sudden sharp knocking on the front door. And the two of them look at each other like, who would this be? They both didn't know. And so Kevin got up, he walked to the front door, he opened it up, and he was very surprised to see two police officers standing there. And so Kevin asked them, like, how can I help you? And they told him they were here because of a fight that Kevin had gotten into with that art gallery owner a few months ago. They said that the entire situation had now escalated and the police needed to get a statement. Now, Kevin did not try to deny that he had gotten into a fight with this person. So instead, he just stepped outside to speak to them alone. And pretty much the instant he was out there speaking to the cops, it was like his stomach was just in knots. I mean, it just seemed crazy that the day before he was out on the beautiful reservoir going fishing, having this sort of nice time. I mean, his life was so stressful these days, but it's like just yesterday, he had finally found some peace. He was so eager to watch back this video of him fishing. Like, that was just a nice moment in time, a rare nice moment. And now he's got more problems, more stress being piled on. Like, he couldn't believe it. But Kevin knew, like, he needed to comply here. Like, whatever they needed, he was going to try to give it to them. And so he just asked one of the officers to please explain a little bit more about what was really going on here. This seems pretty serious. And one of the officers, he just said, look, I can't give you too many details here. But they told him there had been another altercation at the art gallery yesterday morning. Kevin was being considered a suspect at this point because he had previously gotten into a fight with this owner. Now, for Kevin, obviously, this was not good. This was very bad. This was shocking. This is like not good news. But on the other hand, when they said this happened yesterday morning, I mean, Kevin's mind immediately went to his fishing trip. He had been fishing yesterday morning. You know, he was at this reservoir that's at least 45 minutes away from the art gallery. He had receipts from taking that boat out. He had receipts from his fish bait. He even took a video that was likely time-stamped while he was out in the water. And so Kevin tells the officers that, like, I have no idea what happened at the art gallery, but I wasn't involved. Like, whatever happened yesterday, that was not me. A few seconds later, Kevin had led the officers into his house. He had gone upstairs, grabbed his fishing bag out of his closet. He had rifled through it and grabbed all the receipts and then come back downstairs. And when he did, he saw the officers were speaking to his wife and asking her about his alibi. And she had said, yes, Kevin had been fishing, and she'd even watched a home video of his trip that he had made, because he always made videos of when he went fishing. And so at this point, the officers seemed satisfied, and they took the receipts as well as the videotape that Kevin's wife had mentioned, and they said they'd just be in touch if they had any more questions. Over the next few days, Kevin totally forgot about the police stuff. I mean, whatever happened at the art gallery, that had nothing to do with him. That was totally separate. He had given the evidence over. He hadn't heard from the police, so in his mind, like, that's over and done with. However, on the evening of October 29th, so a little more than a week after the police had first shown up at his home, Kevin had just finished making dinner, was about to sit down and eat it with his family, when the doorbell rang, followed by a series of very loud knocks. And so Kevin, he got up, sort of looked at his wife, they both exchanged a look like, who is this? And then he walked over to the front, and through the window, he could see who it was. It was the police again. This time, when he opened the door, they didn't ask politely for him to just make a statement. Instead, one of them immediately stepped forward and slapped a pair of handcuffs on his wrists and said he was under arrest. So the real reason why Kevin's life had been so stressful, that really he couldn't get a night's sleep, that he's just constantly anxious, really didn't have to do with the fact that he had lost his job. That was part of it. But really it was the thing that caused his firing that was keeping him up at night. And that was actually his altercation with the art gallery owner a few months earlier. That altercation was actually really, really serious. It was not just he and this woman getting into a fight. No. Kevin robbed this woman and also assaulted her. And then he was subsequently arrested, lost his job because he was arrested, And then while he was out on bail, he's staring down this trial date that's looming for these charges he's been arrested for. And he knows there's footage of him, there's witness testimony, like he's gonna lose. He's got no job, like he's gonna look like a total pariah in the community. He's embarrassed, he's made this horrible decision, and like his life is already basically wrecked. And it's only gonna get worse if this goes to trial. And so what does he do? Kevin, the perfectionist who always sort of follows through on all the things in his life, to that point, he decides he needs to go back there to the art gallery and finish the job. He needs to get rid of this woman so there won't be a trial, so he won't be found guilty, so his life won't be ruined. And so, about a week ago, he did go back to the art gallery, he killed this woman, and then that same day, he goes out on the reservoir and pretends to be out there on this fishing trip. He films himself fishing because that's what he did always do, but really, it was just in order to create an alibi that would show he was out on the water, even though it was actually in the afternoon. He was not there in the morning. He filmed that video in the afternoon. He claimed it was in the morning. And basically, Kevin almost got away with it between the receipts for the boat and the bait and this video and his wife saying, oh yeah, he was fishing the day before, and Kevin was very innocent when he spoke to police. But what got him caught actually was the video. In the video, the position of the sun, which the officers picked up on, didn't make sense for it being the morning. It was too high in the sky. Like if it had been the morning, it just would have looked visibly different. And so they determined that Kevin's video was not shot in the morning. He could have filmed that at any point later in the day, which created a window that morning that he could have gone back to the art gallery and he could have killed that woman, which he did. Also, just to add credibility to this theory that Kevin had forged this video, or at least forged the time he had shot it, an expert was able to determine that the timestamps on the video had been tampered with, further clarifying that this was a fake. Kevin was found guilty not only of the robbery and assault charges that he was initially charged with, but also he was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death, and as of April 2026, he is still on death row awaiting execution. Just before 6 p.m. on Sunday, July 12, 1942, a man named Robert stumbled into a bar called the Green Parrot in Harlem, New York. And Robert was already very, very drunk. He'd been drinking all afternoon because he'd won a bunch of money in a dice game earlier that day, and he had just been celebrating. Now he was wandering into this bar, the Green Parrot, to keep the party going and keep on drinking. So at this point in 1942, the neighborhood where he was, Harlem, which is a neighborhood within New York City, it really struggled with a very high level of violent crime. And this bar, the Green Parrot, was very popular amongst locals. And so this bar attracted a big crowd, which often became a very rough crowd. And so because of how violent this area was, and because of all this cash that Robert had won earlier in the day, which he had on his person, Robert had decided to bring his gun with him out to the bar, like he was armed as he walked into the Green Parrot. And he was glad he was, because again, this is like a dangerous spot. But as Robert actually went inside of the Green Parrot, he found that it actually wasn't that crowded that night. Now, it was only about 6 p.m. and it would get much busier, or it usually got much busier later in the night. But at this point, even though he's very drunk, he looked around and he saw there was like maybe 20 people in there. And for Robert, this actually was kind of a good thing, because it meant it would be easier for him to get up to the bar and, get served, get more drinks. And so Robert staggered his way over to the bar where the owner, Max Geller, was pouring drinks and helping customers. And so Robert, he gets up there and he looks around, and right away he actually recognized a number of people that were there at the bar. They were regulars. And then he saw actually there was one particular regular, this shorter guy, who he knew was really mean and nasty and just super aggressive, and he clocked him as a guy that he wanted to keep his distance from. And so Robert turned his attention to Max, the owner, and he sort of sloppily waved at him, trying to get his attention. And Max, who was still busy preparing drinks for others, he sort of looked up and stared at Robert and kind of, did sort of like a check of him to see how drunk he really was. And then Max served the other people, and then he walked over to Robert with sort of a skeptical look on his face, and he's like, "What can I do for you, Robert?" And Robert, he's like closing one eye, he's so drunk, he's like, "Yeah, I want a drink." And Max looked at him and he's like, no, you're too drunk, I can't serve you. Now, at first, Robert was just defensive and was basically like, come on, like I'm in here all the time and I've certainly been pretty drunk before and you've served me. I don't understand why this is different. But Max stuck to his word and he's like, no, I'm not going to serve you. You're too intoxicated. And so slowly Robert became angrier, and he began saying, like, you're serving everybody else. There's guys here more drunk than me. Like, I don't get it. Like, you have to give me a drink. And at this point, Max, sensing just how upset Robert was, he said, look, now you're going to just have to leave. Like, I'm not going to serve you, and you have to leave. And Robert, he went from now just being mad to being humiliated. He's being, like, humiliated in front of the whole bar, and it was almost like he couldn't help what he did next. It was like rage coursed through his body, and almost without thinking, Robert drew his gun, aimed, and fired, and he shot Max in the face. Now, instantly, as soon as the shot rang out, the bar is just thrust into absolute chaos. People are screaming, like 90% of the people in there had no idea this was even happening, let alone that people are shooting each other. It was just chaos. People are screaming, they're running around, and Robert, it was like he couldn't even believe what he had just done, and he just immediately pocketed and hid his weapon and sort of just backed away from the scene, because again, people aren't even sure who got shot. People are looking around. He sort of began to blend into the crowd, and then as soon as he could, he just turned and ran out of the bar. About a half an hour later, around 6:30 p.m., an investigator with the New York City District Attorney's Office named Louis Panuco hurried down the sidewalk toward the Green Parrot, which at this point was swarming with police officers. Panuco, who had just been called to the scene, really only knew that there had been a shooting at this bar and that the victim had apparently been shot in the face but was alive, and he was on his way to the hospital. Outside the bar, Panuco could see a bunch of these police officers already interviewing a whole crowd of people who Panuco assumed were witnesses of the shooting, and there were a lot of them. So Panuco hoped that at least one of them would have something useful to say. And so Panuco just let these officers handle this initial questioning of this group. If he needed to, he would speak to people later, but for now, he just headed inside the bar to see what was going on. And as soon as he stepped inside, another officer came up to Panuco to just give him a quick briefing. He said the bar's owner, Max Geller, was the one who had been shot, and he had been shot in the mouth, and that he was alive when he was taken off to the hospital. He was unconscious, so nobody could. Then this officer told Panuco that there had been a bunch of customers in the bar during, and that was the crowd outside. Those were the people that the officers were getting statements from. However, this officer told Panuco that so far, almost none of the people they were speaking with were cooperating. Pretty much everybody was just saying, oh, I don't know what happened, or I didn't see who shot who. It was like they didn't want to tell the police what they actually knew. The only witness so far who had said anything of substance was this very short, very loud regular, who even now, a half an hour after the shooting, was acting extremely agitated and just sort of like loud and very aggressive. It was the same regular that Robert, when he had first walked in, had noticed and thought, boy, I don't want to be around that person. This regular was just screaming that this whole thing was a robbery. That was like all he kept saying. It was a robbery, it was a robbery. But, I mean, in the eyes of the officers who were around this regular, this short, angry guy, it just sort of seemed like he was traumatized by what he saw. And so he was just repeating the word robber over and over and over again, in part likely because he was drunk, in part maybe because he was traumatized, and it was like a weird response he was having. So it was fully discounted what he was saying. They're like, okay, maybe it was a robbery, but maybe you're just kind of out of it. But the officer told Panuco that, they searched the bar, at least they did a cursory search of the bar, and it didn't seem like anything had been taken, so it really didn't seem like this was a robbery. So again, it just seemed like this guy who was yelling about the robbery basically didn't know what he was talking about. And so at this point, Panuco, on the one hand, he was frustrated by what he was hearing, but also he really wasn't that surprised. I mean, he's thinking that, in this area, in Harlem at this time, there was a huge distrust of police. I mean, most residents refused to cooperate with authorities. And so it was very likely that some of these people who were out here, not just the guy yelling about a robbery, but the other witnesses, it was very likely that at least one of them knew something. I mean, there wasn't that many of them in the bar at the time of the shooting, but it was just unclear if he would ever get any of that information. But Penuco knew he would obviously still have to try to get some information from these people. So after getting this brief from this officer, and after sort of walking around the inside of the bar for a second, Penuco headed back outside to try to talk to some of the witnesses himself. But pretty much immediately when he began speaking to these people, he saw that there definitely was like a front being put up. You know, he just had this sinking feeling that this investigation was pretty much dead before it was even going to get started. Fast forward about a month, and Penuco is still hard at work working on this case, except the case took a turn, because the victim, Max, he fell into a coma right after the shooting, and for weeks he'd been in a coma, and authorities, Penuco included, were hopeful he would wake up and he'd be able to give them additional information about what happened, give them anything, because no one by this point had given them any new information. They had basically no evidence, they had nothing. But unfortunately, Max, without regaining consciousness, just died. And so now this was not just a shooting investigation that Penuco was in charge of. He was in charge of a homicide investigation. A homicide investigation with basically no leads. Because again, it's like none of the witnesses had given them anything. All they knew is Max got shot and now he's dead. And then the only other sort of substantive thing that had come out of any of their interviews was from that short, angry guy, the regular from the bar, who had just demanded that this was a robbery. And at first pass, they had looked around the bar. It didn't seem like anything had been taken, and they had sort of ruled out a robbery. But now, a month later, they had really looked into that angle, and they had confirmed that nothing had been taken from the bar. So this was definitely not a robbery. And so basically, Penuco had nothing. And so at this point, Penuco decided that his best bet here was actually just to basically start over, just to zoom back out and go back to square one and just see if there was something that they missed. And in fact, Penuco had brought in a new detective, a guy named John Morrissey, to help him with this new approach. Morrissey was supposed to be this incredibly smart guy who was known for thinking outside the box, something that Penuco felt like they could really use right now. And so on this particular day, Penuco had sent Morrissey to the Green Parrot to just speak to anybody that was there. Just see if he can learn anything about the shooting from people that are at the bar where this happened, like right now. Just go there and talk to people. So off Morrissey goes, and Penuco, he stayed at the station, and that day he was going to re-interview all of the patrons who had been at the Green Parrot on the night of the shooting, just to see if, maybe he could get some additional information out of them. And so far that was not the case. Basically all the interviews were dead ends like they had been the first time, and so, he had somebody in the room with him right now, and the interview had gone nowhere, and he's like, you know what, you can go. Like, all right, on to the next one. And so that person leaves the interview room, and Penuco, he gets up and he walks out into the hallway where all these patrons are sitting on chairs waiting to be interviewed. And as he's, getting ready to just grab the next person to speak to, he sees there are two women who were patrons in the bar who were sitting sort of halfway down the hallway, and they were talking to each other, and they were really not being careful about how loud they were speaking. Like, their conversation that they must have thought was private was loud enough that basically everybody in the hallway could hear it. But the reason it really stood out to Penuco is they weren't speaking English, they were speaking French. Except unbeknownst to these women, who likely believed nobody in this hallway spoke French, Penuco did speak French. And he could hear these women were talking about the case. They were saying that, hey, when you go in there to speak to this detective, tell him you don't know anything. Like, don't give him any information. Because if we do, and we get wrapped up in this case, like, we're going to get dragged out into the public for being involved in the shooting, and what's going to happen is people are going to know that we were at that bar drinking on that night, and we told our husbands we weren't. They're going to be so mad at us. Like, we gotta be quiet. Don't tell the detective anything. Just say you know nothing. And so immediately, Penuco, he walks over to these two women, and he points at one of them and says, hey, you're next. Come into the interview room. And he said this in English. And so the women were kind of surprised that they were being tapped to go next, or this woman was surprised. And so she gets up and sort of waves to her friend, and she follows Penuco into the interview room. And so as soon as they sat down, Penuco, in English, says to this woman, so are you really worried that your husband is going to find out you were at the Green Parrot if you cooperate with me? And the woman was clearly very surprised by this question, but she just sort of feigned like maybe she didn't fully understand, because, she had been speaking French out there. She doesn't know if Pinuco knows that she does or doesn't speak English. And so she just sat there in silence and just looked back at him like she didn't really understand. And Pinuco just stared back at her and then, in perfect French, asked the same question. Like, are you worried, again in French, that your husband is going to find out you were at the Green Parrot if you cooperate? And at this point, the woman knew, like, the jig was up. Clearly, this detective overheard the conversation they had in the hall. That's why he's pulled me in here. I'm caught red-handed. And the woman just began to break down and cry. And then, after a few moments, without Pinuco even needing to push her to do this, she just started telling the whole story. She explained that her and her friend out in the hallway had been at the Green Parrot on the night of the shooting, and they actually did see who shot Max. She said it was this guy who was wearing a black and white checkered suit. He had gone to the bar, and then some sort of altercation happened, and he pulled out a gun, and he shot Max, and then he quickly ran out of the bar. Now, she told Pinuco that she didn't know this guy's name, but she definitely recognized him. She said that, she had been to the Green Parrot before the night of the shooting, and she had seen this guy, and she thinks that he's just like a regular at this bar. Like, she would definitely recognize him again if she saw him. And so Pinuco, at this point, he could barely contain his excitement. This was really like the first meaningful lead in the whole case. You have a suspect who apparently is a regular at the bar where the shooting took place, and he dresses in a really distinct way. He wears, flashy clothing. Like, this is a great lead. And so Pinuco, he's thrilled, he thanks this woman, he goes out and he grabs the other woman, and he brings her in for questioning, and she would echo the same story as the first woman, that yes, they had been there, they had seen this guy, he was a regular, they thought, and he wore these flashy clothes. And so after this, Pinuco is like, I gotta tell Detective Morrissey, I gotta fill him in on what I've just learned. This totally changes the case. And so he ran over to Morrissey's office to see if he was back yet from the Green Parrot, but when he went in there, he saw that he wasn't. And so Pinuco, he's like, all right, I'll go back to my office and I'll start making a plan for what we're gonna do next until Morrissey gets back, and then I'll brief him up then. And so Pinuco, he goes to his office, he starts excitedly making, plans of what they're gonna do, and then a moment later, his door bursts open, and Morrissey comes flying into the room, and he looks totally out of breath, like he's rushed to be here to tell Pinuco something. But Pinuco, he turns, and even though he sees, clearly Morrissey's got something to tell me, he doesn't let Morrissey talk, because Pinuco, he's got this big news about the French women, and he just starts telling Morrissey all about this crazy revelation and how he caught them speaking French, and they were there, and we have this suspect now. He tells him everything he knows. And so Morrissey, even though he had something big to say himself, he's sitting there listening to Pinuco go on. And at the end of it, he's like, man, that is amazing. That's awesome. Great lead. But I'll do you one better. I know the killer's name. It would turn out, when police first arrived at the Green Parrot after the shooting, on day one of this investigation, what they found was basically nothing. They have a victim, and they have a bunch of witnesses, but none of the witnesses would cooperate. There was no leads, no information, no real evidence. All they had was basically this one short, loud, angry guy who kept talking about a robbery. They had sort of looked around the bar, and it didn't appear like this was a robbery, and so he had been discounted. And everyone's like, well, he's traumatized, he's sort of like this angry guy who's sort of a mess. We're not going to take him seriously. What he's saying doesn't really add up, so he was kind of discounted. It would turn out they actually just misunderstood this guy. He wasn't saying robbery, but they didn't know that at the time. They thought he was. They ruled him out. Fast forward a month, and Mr. Think Outside the Box detective, Morrissey, he goes back to the Green Parrot to see what he can learn. And so Morrissey, he's hearing this, and he was told this is what this short guy was saying the first time too. This is not that surprising. But Morrissey, he thought outside the box, and he figured out what this witness actually meant. The key to doing this was really understanding exactly who this witness was and what the witness was actually capable of knowing. Because this witness, this short, angry guy, was actually a literal green parrot that the bar was named after. The parrot was the owner, Max's, pet, and he was always there in the bar. He was a regular, sitting on his perch. And the bird was a huge tourist draw because he was kind of really aggressive and could be sort of mean, and people thought it was pretty funny. And critically, This parrot had been trained to recognize the bar's regulars and refer to them by name. So when Morrissey went back to the bar and listened to the parrot again, he eventually realized the bird was not saying robber, robber, robbery, robbery, and trying to describe like what had happened. No, instead, the bird was saying Robert, Robert, the name of the person responsible, the regular, who he had seen commit this crime. And wouldn't you know it, between this new information and what Yuko had learned from the two French women at the police station, they put their information together and they discovered that there really had been a regular at the Green Parrot Bar, a guy named Robert Butler, who was a 28-year-old cab driver who had fled to Baltimore right after the shooting. The detectives were able to track Robert down and confront him about the murder, and when they explained how they'd figured it all out, Robert just had one thing to say: "I never did like that bird." Robert Butler was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 15 years in prison. The Green Parrot Bar eventually closed, and as for the actual Green Parrot, nobody knows what happened to him.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock, 10 to 1. From China, actually.
Left curve ahead.
We are not far away from Mosul.
Right curve ahead.
47 degrees. cuddly, huh? How are you, brother? I am okay, just a bit tired, but I'm okay. Just another day, you know. So what you are up to? What are you doing week very early, brother? My friends, I'll see you next time. I'm gonna give some couple hours. I'm gonna be back like a couple hours. Okay, guys. So just be safe out there, okay? And hit the like, subscribe, and be kind.